Harry Potter fans have been eagerly anticipating Hogwarts Legacy since the game was first revealed in 2020, and unfortunately, it's been a long wait to play the game. Hogwarts Legacy was originally supposed to launch in 2021, but then its release date was pushed back to 2022. For months, fans have been anticipating a holiday 2022 release date for the game, but now Hogwarts Legacy has been delayed yet again, pushed back to 2023. While some Harry Potter fans may be disappointed to learn that the Hogwarts Legacy release date has been delayed to 2023, the good news is that they now know exactly when to expect the game, barring any future delays, of course. As announced on the official Hogwarts Legacy social media accounts, the game's new release date is February 10, 2023. On that day, Hogwarts Legacy will launch for PS4, PS5, PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X, though the Nintendo Switch version will apparently be coming at a later date. It's been said that the Switch release date will be revealed soon, but there's nothing specific for fans to go by at this time. With Hogwarts Legacy getting its own State of Play presentation earlier this year, it seemed like the game was on track to meet its planned 2022 release date. After all, the Hogwarts Legacy gameplay footage shown during the State of Play looked quite impressive, indicating that the game's development was going well and nearing its endpoint. Hope for Hogwarts Legacy meeting its holiday 2022 release window was solidified when Amazon leaked a December 6th release date for the game. It's entirely possible the leaked Amazon date was accurate until the delay, though it's also possible it was completely incorrect. Whatever the case may be, the new Hogwarts Legacy release date means Harry Potter fans will have to wait until February 10, 2023 to start our Hogwarts adventure. Hogwarts Legacy is just the latest big game that was pushed from 2022 to 2023. Another big game delay came earlier this year when Bethesda and Microsoft announced that the Starfield release date was being delayed to 2023. The delay also can be due to the release of God of War Ragnarok around the same time. The game gonna sell good, as Harry Potter has a huge following, but hearing some recent reports from people working in the industry, it looks like God of War Ragnarok made other developers push their release date back. November's God of War Ragnarok launch has reportedly caused some developers to move their games out of the behemoth's way. That's according to Kinda Funny's Tim Geddes, who said in a recent episode of Kinda Funny Games Daily that he's had business calls where some people have admitted to moving out of God of War Ragnarok's way and giving it space to avoid their games getting eclipsed by Santa Monica Studios' highly anticipated game. God of War Ragnarok is arguably the biggest first-party launch of the year. Sony did release Horizon Forbidden West back in February, but being part of a long-running and beloved franchise, Ragnarok is understandably a bigger deal. It's unclear which games Geddes was referring to in the clip above, but I'm guessing that one of them is Square Enix's Forspoken, and now Hogwarts Legacy join in the mix. It ain't a big delay. Hopefully the delay leads to more polish, and I am anticipating for getting my hands on both the big dogs.
However, you may recognize a few faces.
Tekken 7 released back in 2017 after spending close to 2 years in arcades. Since then, the game has had several season passes and continued content updates, but the game has not received any new content since the release of character Lydia Sobieska and the Island Paradise stage back on March 23, 2021. During EVO 2022, an extremely brief and extremely vague teaser was shown, revealing that a new Tekken project is perhaps in the works. The Tekken series has been ongoing since 1994, and this long-running fighting game franchise has established itself as one of the most popular series in the genre, with Tekken 7 even featuring guest character appearances from Street Fighter's Akuma, Final Fantasy XV's Noctis, and King of Fighters Geese Howard. Now it looks like a new Tekken game may be on the horizon. In a brief 8-second teaser trailer shown at EVO, the largest fighting game tournament in the world, developer Bandai Namco seemingly confirmed a new entry in the franchise but left everyone wondering whether the game is Tekken 8 or perhaps a remake or remaster. The very short trailer features fan favorite and series mainstay Kazuya Mishima in a scene from his story ending in the very first Tekken game before transitioning to more modern-looking graphics. The words "Get Ready" appear on the screen as Kazuya smiles and his eye turns red, hinting at his devil transformation. With this trailer as brief as it is and no word yet from Bandai Namco, it is difficult to determine what this next Tekken project actually is. The focus of the teaser is completely on Kazuya, and the footage shown is from the very first game in the franchise, which could hint at a remake or remaster of some sort. But when the trailer shifts to the modern graphics, it is new footage. Also worth noting is Kazuya's red eye, which he didn't have until the events of Tekken 4, which could imply this new entry, no matter if it is a direct sequel to Tekken 7, a Tekken spin-off, or something completely different, will take place canonically after the events of Tekken 4. EVO has been a wonderland of announcements for fighting game fans historically. With other major announcements from Bandai Namco, like Dragon Ball FighterZ getting rollback netcode, EVO would seem like the perfect place to announce the next main entry in the Tekken series. Coupled with the Nvidia leak detailing a lot of potential games in development, which included Tekken8, it seems likely that this is a teaser for the next mainline game. The first thing on many fans' minds when the trailer ended was that some sort of Tekken1 remake could be in the works. It would be an odd move, but not unprecedented. Soul Calibur 6 brought the series back to Soul Calibur 1, largely owing to the SC5 cast being less popular. Tekken doesn't have that problem, and even with Heihachi Mishima possibly dying for good at the end of Tekken 7, he could still appear as a memory like his late wife Kazumi or King of Fighters Geese Howard. Seeing as the teased look at a modern Kazuya has his scar and red eye, both of which came from games after Tekken 1, a remake seems unlikely. The next possibility is Tekken X Street Fighter, the other side of the decade-old crossover with Capcom's Street Fighter franchise. Due to Street Fighter X Tekken's disastrous sales and reputation, the Tekken X Street Fighter project was put on indefinite hiatus. It appears that Akuma's story-integrated cameo in Tekken May 7th be the furthest this crossover goes. The Tekken franchise is not limited to numbered games and crossovers. There have been several spin-offs, such as the live service Tekken Revolution and 2 Tekken Tag Tournament (TTT) titles. The TTT games are quite popular with the fans, as both of them are non-canon mashups of characters, with Tekken Tag Tournament 2 serving as the main competitive Tekken game after Tekken 6. It had some balance issues due to mixing boss characters in with normal fighters, but it was still enjoyed by fans. The one issue with releasing another Dream Match Tekken game is that TTT2 underperformed. Due to many fighting games releasing around 2012, it seems like Tag Tournament 2 was lost in the fold. The Wii U's low install base and small traditional fighting game audience meant it had trouble keeping up. While a re-release of Tekken Tag Tournament 2 might do better now than it did a decade ago, the fact that it undersold means that a third entry is unlikely. With all that being said, it's very likely that Tekken 8 is currently in development. The opening logos are a big indicator, as specifying Unreal Engine implies Tekken May 8th be developed on Unreal Engine 5. It's difficult to tell if Kazuya's teased model is new, but it could be. Also, unlike most fighting games, Tekken tends to move forward chronologically with each game. Those familiar with Tekken 7's story will know that it ends with a homage to Kazuya's Tekken 1 ending, in which he throws a defeated Heihachi over a cliff, which could be the scene shown in this teaser. Even though logical signs would point to Tekken 8 being in development, with no confirmation of this yet, there is room left to speculate on some other options. If this new project is not Tekken 8, then there is a case to be made for it to be a full-length Tekken Force game. Tekken Force Mode was a minigame featured in Tekken 3, a title that many regard as one of the most influential fighting games of all time. Totally separate to the main game, it was a side-scrolling mode where players could choose their character before fighting their way through 4 short stages, each of which featured one of the game's characters as a boss at the end. It felt distinctly like a more modern take on the popular Streets of Rage-style classics from the early 1990s, and many gamers were full of praise for its inclusion. Such was its popularity that the mode was actually expanded on and reappeared in Tekken 4, and also Tekken 5's Devil Within mode. This was the last time fans would see Tekken Force Mode in any guise, though, and the time could be right for it to make a comeback as a full-length title. Fighting games are not necessarily known for their strong narratives, with the focus usually being on the action, but Tekken's dysfunctional Mishima family members of Kazuya, his father Heihachi, and his son Jin, make for compelling storytelling. The main plot of Tekken revolves around the dynamics of their unique and complex relationships, and with this as a backdrop, a single-player Tekken Force game has the perfect core story elements which it could build upon. Add in the family's natural inclination to solve problems with their fists, and there are all the makings of a strong beat-em-up here. The 3D beat-em-up genre is not exactly overcrowded, so the game wouldn't have much in the way of competition. Until recently, the Yakuza series, which started life in Japan before becoming increasingly popular in the West, had a stranglehold on the genre. The main protagonist Kiryu Kazama cut a swathe through hordes of thugs as he moved through the fictional city of Kamurocho during 7 mainline entries in the series. However, Yakuza's most recent entry, Yakuza Like a Dragon, transitioned away from a real-time fighting game in favor of becoming turn-based. This was a bold decision that ultimately paid off, and the upcoming Yakuza 8 has been confirmed to follow suit. Its sister series, Judgment, is more heavily focused on detective work, which detracts from the good old-fashioned brawling that some gamers crave. If this game did indeed come to fruition, the preferred option would be for it to focus purely on the Mishima family and feature a story that revolves around them exclusively, only limiting the player to using either Jin or Kazuya as the playable character. Focusing on one of the most dysfunctional families in video games would ensure the narrative stays tight and engaging, and would allow for a gripping plot, the likes of which have been shown in glimpses during the mainline series. Having a full roster of playable characters, including the likes of Paul Phoenix and Warang, would inevitably detract from the narrative, despite the fact it would give much more range of choice and allow for varied play styles. A fully realized Tekken Force game based within Tekken's universe is an exciting prospect. Taking Tekken's uniquely intuitive and responsive control scheme and implementing it into a 3D beat-em-up will likely not be an easy task. But if Bandai Namco could get it right, with the power of the current generation's hardware, it's hard not to imagine Kazuya or Jin rampaging through a city, wreaking havoc against anyone standing in their way. Tekken Force Mode showed players on a very small scale how much fun it could be, so with 15 years of additional technological advancements and the Yakuza series to draw inspiration from, the game could ultimately end up successfully transitioning the fighting series into a 3D beat-em-up. While Tekken8 obviously remains the first choice for many fans of the franchise, a standalone Tekken Force game would be a refreshing change and help to fill a huge gap in the market for 3D beat-em. While Capcom's Resident Evil coined the term survival horror, there are many who consider Alone in the Dark the first proper example of the genre. Alone in the Dark was one of the premier horror game franchises of the 90s, spawning multiple sequels. Its legacy carried on through the early 2000s, though that's when things got off the rails. In 2005, critically panned filmmaker Uwe Boll released the Alone in the Dark movie, which is widely considered to be not only one of the worst video game film adaptations ever made, but one of the worst movies ever made, period. Then, in 2008, a new Alone in the Dark game was released for 7th-generation consoles that earned mixed reviews from critics, followed by Alone in the Dark Illumination, which was even more poorly received than its predecessor. Alone in the Dark has been dormant since the ill-fated Alone in the Dark Illumination, but now the franchise is making a comeback in a big way. THQ Nordic opened its big showcase event by announcing a reimagining of the original Alone in the Dark game, in development for PS5, PC and Xbox Series X. The Alone in the Dark reimagining is set in the 1920s Gothic American South, with players able to choose between playing as Emily Hartwood or Edward Carnby, just as in the original. After selecting their character, Alone in the Dark players are let loose to explore the creepy Dercito Manor, all the while combating supernatural enemies and solving puzzles in classic survival horror fashion. It's been 30 years since the launch of the original game, so fans can expect vastly improved graphics, modernized controls, and more. While the original Resident Evil was influenced by Alone in the Dark, it seems this Alone in the Dark reimagining is taking its cues from the Resident Evil remakes of recent years. While gameplay is only briefly shown in the trailer, it's clear that the Alone in the Dark reimagining is going to use an over-the-shoulder camera and is generally giving off a Resident Evil 2/Resident Evil 3 remake vibe. This announcement was leaked hours beforehand by Dusk Golem, with some screenshots and video footage. The trailer gave many the impression that this new Alone in the Dark would be a remake, but it's technically an original story that uses elements of the 90s trilogy. This was confirmed by THQ Nordic in a PlayStation blog post that went into more detail regarding the new Alone in the Dark game. As confirmed by THQ Nordic, the Alone in the Dark story is being penned by Michael Hedberg, a writer who helped write the story for classic horror game Amnesia, The Dark Descent and more recently, Soma. The new Alone in the Dark is set in the 1920s, with players visiting a new take on the Dercito mansion from the original game, as well as the surrounding areas. Like in the original game, the new Alone in the Dark will star 2 main playable characters, Emily Hartwood and Edward Carnby. However, the monsters they encounter will be much different than fans remember. While THQ Nordic has said there will be some nods to the monsters featured in the original Alone in the Dark, the enemies are otherwise brand new creations, dreamed up by Guillermo del Toro collaborator Guy Davis. So while Alone in the Dark is not a remake, it should still be familiar to fans of the original game. It's a modern retelling with both the story and gameplay, the latter of which is being dramatically altered. It's been 30 years since the original Alone in the Dark launched, so it makes sense that this new game is going to be significantly different, employing an over-the-shoulder camera and gameplay style that seemingly mimics games like the Resident Evil 2 remake. It's fitting that the new Alone in the Dark seems to be taking inspiration from the Resident Evil remakes, as the original Alone in the Dark game actually inspired by Resident Evil. In fact, the original Alone in the Dark is arguably the first example of a survival horror game, with many elements from it borrowed in Resident Evil 1. Not much has been shown so far, but it looks like the new Alone in the Dark should appeal to fans of the games. It seems to be taking most of its inspiration from the first Alone in the Dark, but it will be interesting to see how elements from Alone in the Dark 2 and 3 are blended into the experience as well. It could be a similar reboot like the new Black Mirror game. The new Black Mirror reboot is a good game, but didn't live up to my expectations compared to the original trilogy, which were great. I hope Alone in the Dark doesn't fall into the same hole, and I hope it impresses me. The Alone in the Dark reimagining has big shoes to fill, and it's unclear if it will be able to live up to the high bar set by the original and other games in the survival horror genre. However, what's been shown so far looks promising, and I am happy that a new Alone in the Dark game is coming at all. Since its founding in 1994, Koch Media has made a name for itself as a software distributor. Even someone who's never heard of the German-Austrian company is probably aware of its subsidiaries, which include publisher Deep Silver and Saints Row developer Volition. However, gamers won't be hearing the name Koch Media anymore. The company's rebranded itself under the name Plaion, revealing a new logo on Thursday. Managing Director Clemens Kundraditz discussed the rebranding in a recent interview, explaining the new name and reasons for the change. Speaking to GamesIndustry.biz, Kundraditz explained how the rebranding began as simply modernizing Koch Media's look. However, company leaders ultimately decided to take things further by committing to a complete rebrand. Obviously, said Kundraditz, we want to avoid people seeing this as window dressing. The signal we're sending is that we're on a journey, and it's good to give this journey a new name, new visual appearance. He also expressed how Plaion wants to show that it's a modern international company. The company additionally wanted to spread that message in a way that's clear to both its employees and those outside the company. According to Kundraditz, part of this process includes shaking the perception of Koch Media as a Central European company rather than global one. This is reflected in the new name. Koch, pronounced Koch, can be awkward for non-Germans. However, Plaion is pronounced Plaion, which is easier for non-German speakers and certainly fitting for a gaming and film company. Plaion also designed its new logo to resemble the triangular symbol for play. It additionally features a stylized IO resembling a 1 and 0, symbolizing the company's new digital focus. Speaking of focus, Kundraditz emphasized that, despite the film and TV connotations of its logo, Plaion is still first and foremost a games company. He explained that, rather than transforming the company into something completely new, Plaion's rebranding is merely continuing a process that began when THQ Nordic acquired Koch Media in 2018. The transition includes the above-mentioned shift from being a primarily physical distributor to one with a more multifaceted approach. He also emphasized Plaion's ambitions to grow and diversify its role within the entertainment industry. Kundraditz also mentioned that Plaion had timed its rebranding to come ahead of Gamescom 2022, which begins August 24th in Cologne, Germany. The company hopes that doing so will help to establish the Plaion brand in the consciousness of the international public. He concluded the interview by acknowledging the similarities between Koch becoming Plaion and Facebook's rebranding as Meta. However, the difference is that while Meta rebranded to emphasize its focus on the future of the metaverse, Plaion's new name acknowledges how far the company's already come.
Welcome to the Madhouse, Detective.
From a new Street Fighter to the highly anticipated Resident Evil Village DLC, Capcom has a lot of upcoming releases to excite fans. The company has already had an interesting schedule for 2022 so far, unveiling Street Fighter VI in February, releasing the Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak expansion in June, alongside plenty of other announcements and releases. To cover all this content that Capcom has for the rest of 2022 and early 2023, it seems the company will need a lot of time. The upcoming Tokyo Game Show, one of Japan's biggest gaming events, is the place where Capcom has been given that time. According to recent reports, the Street Fighter and Resident Evil publisher will have 2 live streams at this year's Tokyo Game Show, which takes place in September. It isn't surprising that Capcom would show up to the Tokyo Game Show, especially with this year's event marking the anticipated return of a physical audience, following the end of lockdowns in Japan. What is interesting is that Capcom has carved out time for 2 presentations at this year's Tokyo Game Show. The first showcase will be a pre-recorded stream taking place on September 15th, which will give fans all the latest Capcom news. This is likely where gamers can expect to hear news about already confirmed releases such as Resident Evil Village's DLC, Exoprimal, and potentially the RE4 remake. For Street Fighter news, the second of Capcom's presentations will be a livestream on September 16th dedicated to updates on the latest entry in the franchise. Already, fans have had some information brought to them on Street Fighter VI. Since the game was first revealed in February, more details have been revealed steadily. Most recently, 2 new characters were unveiled for Street Fighter VI at EVO 2022, so it is likely that the Tokyo Game Show could see some similar reveals. Fans are currently hoping to see some extended gameplay of Street Fighter VI, especially with the game targeting a 2023 release. Of course, among the things gamers are already aware of, there is the potential for Capcom to surprise its fans with the reveal of a new title, especially in the September 15th stream. While nothing is official yet, a possible reveal that could happen at the Tokyo Game Show is a showing of Resident Evil 9. Even while some of Resident Evil Village's story still needs wrapping up, after fans spotted a Resident Evil 9 leak, a reveal for that game could come sooner rather than later. Speaking of Capcom, Dino Crisis and Resident Evil producer Hiroyuki Kobayashi reveals he left Capcom earlier this year, joining Chinese developer NetEase as a producer. NetEase has been making waves throughout the gaming industry in recent years as the Chinese developer and publisher has made multiple high-profile acquisitions. The Hangzhou-based studio acquired No More Heroes developer Grasshopper Manufacture last year, as well as partnered with brands like Blizzard and Marvel. The studio has also seen a number of major hirings recently, with names like former Yakuza creator Toshihiro Nagoshi signing on with NetEase. Now, a recent announcement reveals veteran Capcom producer Hiroyuki Kobayashi is set to join NetEase as well. Hiroyuki Kobayashi had been with Capcom for nearly 3 decades, first working with the iconic developer in 1995 as a programmer on the first Resident Evil. He would go on to serve as producer on a plethora of Capcom franchises with highly successful titles like Resident Evil 4, Devil May Cry, and Dragon's Dogma under his belt. Kobayashi would also be the executive producer for a small selection of games including Resident Evil 6 and Mega Man 11. Now, an announcement via his Twitter account confirms Kobayashi has left Capcom for NetEase. Hiroyuki Kobayashi officially announced the transition to NetEase through his Twitter Friday morning, coinciding with the producer's 50th birthday. Kobayashi revealed that he had previously left Capcom as of March 31st and would be joining NetEase as a producer moving forward. The reveal did not share any details about upcoming projects with NetEase, simply telling fans to stay tuned with plans to come later. Kobayashi concluded the announcement on a positive note, stating his desire to create more enjoyable entertainment experiences with NetEase. The acquisition of Hiroyuki Kobayashi adds another major player in the gaming industry to NetEase's lineup as the company has continually expanded. Alongside the previously mentioned Grasshopper Manufacture, NetEase has made major investments in studios like Bungie and Quantic Dream. The Chinese studio also licenses several popular games for the Chinese market like Minecraft and Overwatch, even reportedly working with Blizzard on a cancelled World of Warcraft mobile MMO. Kobayashi's departure from Capcom leaves a lasting legacy as he contributed not only to some of the developer's most prominent games, but many popular niche franchises as well. Kobayashi worked on all 3 Dino Crisis games, serving as planner for the first and producer for Dino Crisis 2 and 3.
He was also heavily involved in the Sengoku Basara series, serving as a producer on several games and a supervisor for the anime adaptations. Kobayashi will bring nearly 3 decades of experience with one of Japan's top developers to his new position at NetEase.
PlayStation Plus subscribers are treated to 3 free games each month. And after claiming the free games, PlayStation Plus subscribers get to keep them as long as they stay subscribed to the service. The new PS Plus tiers work a bit differently, however. While the new PS Plus tiers are still in their infancy, Sony has already started establishing a pattern with them. Whereas the free PS Plus games are revealed at the end of the month and added at the beginning of the next one, it seems that the new PS Plus Extra and Premium games will be added in the middle of each month. This is what happened when it came to the new PS Plus Extra and Premium games for July 2022, and it is the case for the August 2022 editions as well. Sony has announced a whopping 12 games that are coming to PS Plus Extra and Premium starting Tuesday, August 16th. The games include Bugsnax, which was once a free PS Plus title, asymmetric multiplayer horror game Dead by Daylight, open-world co-op game Ghost Recon Wildlands, 3 games in the fan-favorite Yakuza series, Everspace, Metro Exodus, Monopoly Madness, Monopoly Plus, Trials of Mana, and Uno. Sony plans on making the entire Yakuza series playable through PS Plus by the end of 2022, and the 3 games coming on August 16th will be a big step in that direction. Starting that day, PS Plus Extra and Premium subscribers can play Yakuza 0, Yakuza Kiwami, and Yakuza Kiwami 2 with their subscription. Yakuza Kiwami and Yakuza Kiwami 2 are remakes of the first 2 Yakuza PS2 games, while Yakuza 0 is a prequel and stands out as one of the highest-rated games in the series. 0, Yakuza Kiwami, and Yakuza Kiwami 2 are all going to be available to play through PS Plus Extra and Premium on August 16th. Subscribers have a limited time to snag Yakuza Like a Dragon for their collection. Yakuza Like a Dragon is one of the free PS Plus games for August 2022, so those interested have until the end of the month to grab it. From Star Wars Jedi Starfighter to Rogue Galaxy to the original Resident Evil, PlayStation Plus Premium had some of Sony's best games from the late 90s and early 2000s the day it launched. Since then, PS Plus has been ignoring classics in favor of solid offerings. Despite the service's initial offerings providing hope for retro gamers, August's new PS Plus games seem to be continuing a disappointing trend. The 2 Kiwami games offer some hope for fans of classics, as they are remakes of the first Yakuza PS2 games, but they aren't truly retro games. Sony owns a sizable collection of PS1, PS2, PS3, and PSP games under its studio's umbrella. PS Plus wouldn't have to pay a penny for that content, yet has chosen not to include more options. There have also been concerns about the retro games already on PS Plus Premium. Sony has a shaky history with backward compatibility and can pull things off the service anytime it desires. Fans have been understandably worried about losing access to their favorite games, and PlayStation also still hasn't introduced trophy support for retro games on PS Plus, leaving subscribers wanting more. This service even doesn't have God of War Ascension, Ghost of Sparta and Chains of Olympus, which is a big disservice. Hope they add these retro games and all older first-party games soon. Now it seems one of those missing games could be getting added to PS Plus Premium in the relatively near future. According to the latest rumors, classic PS1 JRPG The Legend of Dragoon could be getting added to the PS Plus Premium lineup. This rumor started due to a retweet by Sony's Shuhei Yoshida, who retweeted a 3-year-old tweet by Legend of Dragoon's composer. This has led some to connect the dots and assume Yoshida is teasing something Legend of Dragoon related, with the most likely possibility being that the game is going to make its way to PS Plus Premium soon. While some might think this is a stretch, it would make sense for Legend of Dragoon to come to PS Plus Premium eventually. After all, Legend of Dragoon is a first-party PlayStation release, meaning it wouldn't have to jump through the licensing hurdles that third-party PS Plus Premium titles may have to deal with. Not only that, but Sony is going to have to add content to PS Plus Premium on a regular basis if it hopes to maintain its subscribers and attract newcomers to the platform, and so one would imagine that Legend of Dragoon would be added eventually, even if it doesn't happen soon. Legend of Dragoon coming to PS Plus Premium is the most likely possibility here, but there is another possibility, though fans shouldn't hold their breath. It's possible that Yoshida is teasing a Legend of Dragoon remake, but that seems highly unlikely. And of course, it can't be ruled out that this retweet means nothing, and so fans should keep that in mind as well. Speaking of PS Plus and online, Sony officially unplugs multiplayer servers for the most recently released Killzone games, as previously announced by Guerrilla Games. It's odd to consider that Killzone used to be one of Sony's biggest PlayStation game franchises. Killzone Shadow Fall released in 2013 as a PlayStation 4 launch game, but nearly 9 years later Killzone has disappeared from PlayStation's priorities. Fans of the franchise have been able to hold on to their experiences due to the continued support of Killzone Shadow Fall's multiplayer servers, at least. That's now ended, unfortunately, with Sony pulling the plug on the last online-enabled Killzone game servers. It's now confirmed that multiplayer servers for Killzone Shadow Fall, as well as the PS Vita title Killzone Mercenary, have been taken offline. That includes Killzone Shadow Fall's cooperative Intercept game mode. Since Killzone Intercept was available standalone, the app is now entirely defunct. It's also being removed from the PlayStation Plus Extra game catalog, where it was previously made available to subscribers. There are no plans to bring the servers back online in an official capacity. Those worried that these changes might impact their single-player Killzone experiences don't have to worry. Killzone Shadowfall and Killzone Mercenaries campaigns are entirely offline. Players, regardless of whether they own the games physically or digitally, will be able to play the entire single-player experience without issue. Given the modern wave of online DRM leading to some single-player games becoming non-functioning, worries regarding Killzone are fair. Luckily, there's no such issue here. The decision to shut down Killzone Shadow Fall and Killzone Mercenaries multiplayer servers did not come abruptly. Developer Guerrilla Games made an announcement that servers would be going down on July 22nd. Just 3 weeks of advance notice isn't necessarily much, but those who were hoping to try to Killzone multiplayer one last time before servers went down definitely had plenty of time to do so. What's especially sad about the situation is that there is no modern Killzone release to take the place of those now going offline. There's no older Killzone multiplayer experience still available either. This is the last of Killzone multiplayer, for better or worse. Fans will have to hope Guerrilla Games or PlayStation decides to bring the franchise back in the future. Killzone isn't the only series impacted by the Sony decision to shut down online multiplayer servers. Also going offline today is Rig's Mechanized Combat League servers. Other games that have gone offline include Everybody's Golf, Freedom Wars, Little Big Planet, and Soul Sacrifice. Odds are, Sony's only going to continue taking PlayStation games offline going forward, though it's unclear which games might be next.
I'm coming.
The Last of Us is set to make its return. The Last of Us HBO show was set to launch sometime in the near future, and Naughty Dog has gone back to the drawing board and is releasing a full remake of the first game titled The Last of Us Part 1. In a new post, Sony and Naughty Dog have detailed what makes this remake so special when it launches in September. The announcement comes hours after gameplay of Naughty Dog's remake made the rounds earlier from Xbox Era co-founder Nick Baker. Baker shared clips that covered various aspects of the game from its 2 graphics modes, gameplay of combat and crafting, as well as different accessibility features and control settings. After the clips caught plenty of attention, Baker removed them, which in turn let Naughty Dog take the time to put together its own official breakdown. The trailer Naughty Dog released features 10 minutes of feedback and explanations from various members of Naughty Dog. Co-president Neil Druckmann opens up by mentioning the team was excited about the idea of making The Last of Us Part 1 while creating the flashback scenes of the first game within The Last of Us 2. Given the impressive state of the sequel, the team proposed the possibility of remaking the first game to match the original vision Naughty Dog had that technology would not allow for back in 2013. The rest of the trailer goes on to detail how Naughty Dog is looking to use the full power of the PS5 to reimagine The Last of Us. Bits of combat and behind-the-scene development go on to show that both the enemy AI and in-game teammates have been reworked to be more sophisticated and believable. Alongside reworked AI, the remake will boast a boatload of accessibility features similar to The Last of Us 2, in-game unlockables, and various new modes like permadeath and a speed running mode. Much of Nick Baker's leaked information also turned out to be true, especially with his information mentioning the fidelity and performance graphical settings.
With the remake having gone gold, this is Naughty Dog's first breakdown of what players can expect.
Yet despite the breakdown and the visible passion from the development team, some fans aren't too enthused. Members of the development team have already defended The Last of Us Part 1 from cash grab claims. However, this trailer didn't exactly quell a lot of the concerns some fans had.
Time will tell if Naughty Dog has more tricks up its sleeve before launch.
Gamers have looked at The Last of Us Part 1 with skepticism, partially because this will mark the third time the game is being released in less than a decade. Naturally, this has led to some questioning whether Naughty Dog is exploiting gamers by constantly re-releasing the same game. However, a recent in-depth look at the game revealed that there has been plenty of new content added that should make the game worthwhile, even for gamers who have experienced Joel and Ellie's journey. One of the benefits of remaking the game is that Naughty Dog has access to hardware that was unavailable to it when The Last of Us was in development. Because of this, the studio has been able to bring the game closer to what its original vision for the game was. One of the ways this is being done is by taking advantage of the DualSense controller's various features to increase player immersion and amplify the power of both the adrenaline-raising moments and the quieter, more sentimental scenes. The DualSense is being used to make the weapons in the game feel more realistic than ever. This is being done by implementing the controller's adaptive triggers to mimic the tautness of a bowstring, and the further Ellie pulls the string back, the more resistance the triggers will offer. Different weapons in the game will also have different levels of resistance when players use the triggers to aim, making each weapon feel more unique. Haptic feedback will also be used abundantly, including when upgrading weapons, striking enemies, and other impactful moments. It will also be used in subtle ways, such as during the iconic scene which features Joel petting a giraffe. The giraffe scene is one of the most memorable moments of the last game, where Joel and Ellie come across a pack of giraffes and manage to pet one. When players pet the giraffe, the DualSense will have a light reverb to imitate the sense of contact with the creature. Instead of gritty realism, it's a peaceful moment made all the more immersive. During the recent Last of Us Part 1 trailer, Naughty Dog co-president Neil Druckmann stated why this haptic feedback is so important. To me, that's the essence of The Last of Us. It's the high-tension moments, it's the low-tension moments, and all of it feeling grounded. It's you feeling immersed in this world, and that's what the new technology on the PS5 is allowing. It'll be interesting to see how these features, as well as other PS5 improvements, make The Last of Us Part 1 better and more immersive. When rebuilding The Last of Us, Naughty Dog vastly upgraded the visuals of both the characters and the environments. All aspects of the characters have been made more detailed, including their movements and their eyes, making them more realistic than ever. Gamers can also expect both enemies and companions to be far smarter and more believable thanks to the improved AI, which goes beyond what was seen in The Last of Us Part 2. To increase immersion, the environments are more destructible than ever, and players will be able to see windows break and concrete chip around them in the middle of intense gunfights. To get the best shots of this revamped world, the game also includes an upgraded photo mode. The improvements are not merely visual, however. The Last of Us Part 1 will also utilize the PS5's 3D audio to make encounters with the infected incredibly immersive, allowing players to hear enemies before they see them. Sound will also be used through the DualSense controller, which will play audio, for instance, when the player cocks a shotgun. To spruce up gameplay, players can also choose from several gameplay modifiers, something which is common in Naughty Dog games. This includes modifiers that change the game's visuals, as well as a permadeath mode and a speedrun mode for gamers looking to test themselves. Other features that have been added include a model viewer, additional clothing, and other unlockables. Gameplay elements from The Last of Us Part 2 have made their way to The Last of Us Part 1, including the workbenches which feature realistic animations when players upgrade weapons. It also borrows many of The Last of Us Part 2's accessibility options while including a few new ones, such as the ability to enable audio descriptions of cutscenes. These accessibility features will go a long way to allowing more gamers than ever to play without barriers. However, not all of The Last of Us Part 2's features are present, including the ability to dodge, crawl, and go prone. New trailblazing accessibility features have also been added to The Last of Us Part 1. Most notably, the game will include audio descriptions of the cutscenes, allowing visually impaired players to better immerse themselves in the game's rich narrative. According to Matthew Gallant, who is the game director, this may be the first PlayStation title to have audio descriptions of cutscenes built into the game. Features such as these demonstrate that while the game is a remake of an old title, there are plenty of new features that make it attractive even to series veterans. The Last of Us Part 1 may not be making extensive gameplay changes, but it is clear that a lot of work has gone into making this remake the definitive way to play The Last of Us. Part of that ambition is its graphical fidelity, with visual reworks and a complete overhaul in art direction to meet the standard of The Last of Us 2. This will result in facial animation and motion capture performances being enhanced and updated, as well as environmental textures and any other visuals in The Last of Us Part 1. Therefore, bonus skin unlocks are an exciting part of the remake, as Naughty Dog will be able to render them in a more intricately detailed way. The Last of Us Part 1 introduces skins for Joel's pistol and shotgun, as well as Ellie's pistol and bow. The Last of Us Part 1's Digital Deluxe and Firefly editions, for example, include the black, gold and filigree skins for the 9mm pistol, the sculpted oak and rubber tactical skins for the shotgun, and the carbon black and arctic white skins for the bow. Further, more were glossed over during blink and miss it footage in The Last of Us Part 1's features and gameplay trailer, including skins such as the Golden Moth and Washington Liberation for Ellie's pistol. This may be a smaller addition compared to how much work went into the remake's graphics, but it is still fantastic to see tiny details being celebrated in the characters' weapons. In terms of the character skins that will be included in The Last of Us Part 1, the selection seems limited in the same way that the original game was, though there may be more that has not been revealed yet, as the skins tab for Ellie does show some locked and obscured outfits. That said, it does look like The Last of Us unlockable skins will be reprised for the remake. Joel's skins included a brown shirt, short-sleeve denim, long-sleeve denim, gray sweatshirt, gold plaid shirt, red plaid shirt, and a purple plaid shirt. For his backpack skins, there was a camper backpack and a military backpack. Ellie's skins included 3 Naughty Dog-themed shirts, a Jack and Daxter t-shirt, Jack hoodie, a jumpsuit, red flannel, and an Angel Knives shirt. For her backpacks, there was a Daxter backpack and a Punk backpack, and Ellie also received special headwear with Jack goggles. It is unclear whether all of these skins will return in the remake, but it is nice to see them reprised alongside a couple of new additions that were also spotted in the game's features and gameplay trailer. Many of The Last of Us skins reference and pay tribute to Naughty Dog's previous work, and The Last of Us Part 1's additions are no different. Ellie now has at least 2 Uncharted shirts that players can unlock, with one that features an image of Nathan Drake while the other features an illustrated graphic representing Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. It is also uncertain whether players will earn in-game points similarly to The Last of Us Tag's wallet or not, but there are surely enough reasons for players new and old to be excited for The Last of Us Part 1's release this September. The original The Last of Us had companions that were more artificial than intelligent. While the scripted in-game scenes had characters like Ellie and Tess believably inspecting and interacting with their surroundings, gameplay sequences were less than ideal. In almost every scenario, gameplay begins in stealth. The AI hides behind objects, crouches whenever they move from cover to cover, and tells the players when they spot enemies. Stealth is believable for the most part, apart from the instances where friendly characters would walk right in front of enemies' lines of sight and make their footsteps as audible as possible. This would never break the party's cover, but it ruins the immersion for players. Once enemies get wind of the party's presence via players' actions, companions would fumble during combat. Using Ellie as an example, she will only occasionally shoot an enemy or help Joel whenever he is grabbed by an opponent. Otherwise, she will stand around waiting for players to do something. While this is supposed to make players feel like they're the ones in control of the flow of combat, it also makes them feel like they are running a one-man show. The same can be said for the game's stealth sections, which force players to handle almost all the enemies by themselves. Aside from this, the paltry amount of damage these companion characters do makes it seem that they aren't carrying their own weight. 2020's The Last of Us Part 2's companion AI is far better than that of its predecessor. Allies know the current locations of visible enemies and can also believably predict where said enemies are moving. The number of instances of them taking out enemies has increased, and best of all, friendlies move quietly and slowly, keeping the immersion of the survival game intact. The AI hasn't improved that much combat-wise, but like the aforementioned stealth sections, allies will more frequently provide players with opportunities for them to take advantage of. Seeing as The Last of Us Part 1 will incorporate aspects of The Last of Us Part 2's companion AI, Naughty Dog can create a much more immersive experience. Giving allies the ability to predict enemies' movements and adjust their actions accordingly is great, but players should also be able to see them take a more active role in gameplay. Having Ellie or Bill take out enemies that aren't Joel's focus will go a long way to providing the feeling that players are accompanied by allies who can actually hold their own. And though it may not make it to the final game, adding something like a command wheel will allow players to take a more direct approach to controlling how an ally behaves. The Last of Us Remake won't incorporate all the new gameplay mechanics seen in The Last of Us Part 2, as things like slipping through tight spaces and lying prone on dense foliage won't be making an appearance, but the companion AI will be more capable and believable. This might not justify The Last of Us Part 1's price tag, but it will allow Naughty Dog to better realize its original vision for the game. There have been accusations that The Last of Us Part 1 is a cash grab from the studio, and that the remake is unnecessary. This is an understandable claim, especially when similar claims have been made against games like Grand Theft Auto 5 and Skyrim, which have also been constantly re-released. However, with plenty of new features added, as well as several visual and audio upgrades, it does appear that it will be a sufficiently revamped experience that still manages to remain faithful to the original game. While this may not be enough for some who are already fatigued by Joel and Ellie's story, fans looking for the definitive way to play the game will likely not go wrong with the upcoming remake. The remake's release comes at a convenient time, as it helps to build up hype for the upcoming The Last of Us television adaptation, which will likely draw plenty of new fans to the franchise. Fortunately for those new fans, they will have the most polished version of The Last of Us waiting for them. Although plenty of gamers are clamoring for a sequel to The Last of Us Part 2, Naughty Dog is illustrating that it is worth going back to the beginning and experiencing the story that started it all again.
WN for perfectionism, obsessive attention to detail, and industry-progressing gameplay design.
Naughty Dog franchises such as The Last of Us, Jak and Daxter, and Uncharted have turned the studio into an industry staple, and gamers are always keen to know what the developers are working on next. While this eagerness is beneficial for Naughty Dog, as it builds hype for its upcoming games, it also encourages fans to hunt out leaks. It may seem that Naughty Dog is careless with its information because it constantly faces leaks, with the latest ones affecting The Last of Us Remake. However, when one looks at the studio's history, it becomes apparent that the leaks have come from so many sources that it would be impossible to predict all of them. Though the studio likely tries its hardest to tighten its security to ensure its secrets remain secret until the time is right, Naughty Dog illustrates that this is sometimes an impossible task.
One of Naughty Dog's most successful franchises is Uncharted, which allows players to travel the globe while hunting down the most precious relics.
The series has often been compared to Tomb Raider, although thanks to Nathan Drake's charisma, it has managed to carve out an identity of its own. After the release of several titles, the series has gained great popularity, and plenty of eyes are always on it, leaving gamers constantly eager for the latest news. Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception was subjected to leaks in the lead-up to its release. Some leaks were the result of retailers releasing their copies to customers early, and these gamers had posted their images and gameplay footage online. In response, though the game was originally supposed to launch in November 2011, the game was pushed forward to October 28 in parts of Europe. The damage had been done, however, and the game was already plastered all over the internet. Uncharted 4: A Thief's End was the last mainline entry in the series, though it was followed by the spin-off, The Lost Legacy. It performed well on PS4, selling over 15 million copies. This has led to Sony wanting to expand the reach of the Uncharted franchise, though in the process it, through an investor relations document, inadvertently leaked that a PC port of Uncharted 4 was coming. It has since been officially announced that the game will make its way to PC via the Legacy of Thieves collection in 2022, though it has yet to receive a release date. Perhaps the most controversial leak Naughty Dog suffered came with The Last of Us Part 2. After the success of The Last of Us, anticipation was high for the sequel, and there were many ideas surrounding where the studio would take the dramatic story. The game was originally slated to release in February 2020, but it faced several delays, in part due to the COVID-19 pandemic which disrupted the workflow of several studios globally. Unfortunately, the further the game was pushed back, the more opportunities there were for leaks to occur. In April 2020, the game suffered significant leaks which included cutscenes, gameplay, and very important plot details. Leaks are pretty devastating to most games, but it hit The Last of Us Part 2 particularly hard because it relied so heavily on the element of surprise. Many of the game's breathtaking twists, including the death of one of the central characters as well as the playable character switching partway, were revealed early.
For some gamers, this took some impact out of these moments.
Many of the plot details revealed turned out to be false, but enough of it was true for it to be a significant spoiler. After the leak, Naughty Dog co-president Neil Druckmann tweeted that he was heartbroken for fans and the team, and Naughty Dog released a message warning fans to avoid spoilers while also telling them that regardless of any leaks, the final experience would be worth it. Although reports originally suggested that the leak may have been from a disgruntled Naughty Dog employee, after investigation, it was discovered that the perpetrators of the leak were outsiders who were not affiliated with the studio or with Sony Interactive Entertainment. The first The Last of Us Part 1 leak technically first appeared in April 2021, when gaming journalist Jason Schreier claimed that a smaller Sony studio tried to do a The Last of Us remake, but the project was eventually passed to Naughty Dog instead. This news caused a stir in the gaming world, with many gamers wondering whether a remake of The Last of Us is necessary, especially when it would be the third time the game is being released in less than a decade. While some gamers accused Naughty Dog of releasing a cash grab, others argued that a remake on current-generation hardware could breathe new life into the game. A few hours before the game was officially announced, it suffered yet another leak, this time through the PlayStation Direct site where users were able to access the game's announcement trailer. For some gamers, leaks are useful, as they give gamers an idea of what to expect from upcoming titles so that they can avoid potentially awful games before wasting money on them. However, other gamers see them as spoilers that disrespect the hard work of the developers. Regardless of how gamers feel about leaks, it is likely that they will never be fully eliminated, and Naughty Dog will probably never shake leaks off entirely. And that's all for the video, guys. Like and share the video for a greater audience. Comment your thoughts on the topics, and donations are always appreciated. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon, and until then from SMPV, it's goodbye.
Getting that little light touch on the haptics as he's petting the giraffe. To me, that's the essence of it.